and welcome back to Our Peaceful Haven. Today we are going to do some cleaning in preparation for Shabbat. Our family keeps the fourth commandment to honor the Sabbath and keep it holy. We do so from Saturday morning to Sunday morning, the seventh day. So typically I will go through the house, collect things and put them back where they need to go, and then I will start cleaning the bathrooms. I'll sweep the floor, do any sort of chores that can be done in order for our house to be tidy so that we can rest as much as we can on Sabbath and enjoy that day. It's not about our house being perfect for Shabbat or our lives being perfect at all. It's just about making sure that we do our due diligence to prepare our homes, our lives, our hearts, so that on Shabbat we can truly relax and just focus on His Word and on worship and on fellowship and not worry about the cares of this world or the things of our house, and just being good stewards of the things that we have. As a family, we haven't always kept Shabbat, but we find it extremely important, and we really enjoy having a day of the week that we can just completely set aside all of our tasks, all of our worries, all of our to-do lists, and we can just focus on our Creator. And it's just such a privilege that He has given us, and if we could all just look at it in that way and not look at it as a burden or as some sort of legalistic requirement, it is a gift, and it is something that we get to do as children of the Most High. We get to have a day where it's all about Him. It's all about Him. It's not about us. It's about Him. And so we seek to honor the Shabbat in order to please Him and to give Him glory in all things, and just recenter our lives, recenter our focus back on Him. And it's truly a gift. It really is. So, we encourage your family to look into it and see why Sabbath could really be something that your family ought to implement. We believe that it is a command that still applies, and so we do it in honor of that command, but we also do it knowing that the Father knows what's best for us, and He knows the days that we live in. He knows how hard things are right now. He knows how much stress our bodies are under, and our to-do lists are a mile long typically. And so, each week we have the privilege and the permission to stop doing all the things. And so once we saw and realized that this command still applies for us today, we embraced it wholeheartedly, and there's no looking back whatsoever. So typically what I do is I start from top to bottom, and I will clean my mirror, my cabinet tops, the faucet, all of those things, and then I will clean my toilet. And everybody has their own way of cleaning. Some people will probably be grossed out me touching my toilet and cleaning it, but there's so much worse things to worry about. I just get down in there and get it done. I use the rags that have been used during the week, whether it's my hand towel or whatever, and I will just get one last use out of it before I throw it down for laundry. I dust everything and try to just do my best. This doesn't happen every week. I don't always get to dusting the picture frames or removing everything off the shelves, but this day I took some extra time and did those things because I had the time, or so I thought. Time creeps up on you when you're doing all of this stuff. And I just want to reiterate that it is not about your house being perfect so that you can rest on Shabbat. The command is to rest and to honor the Sabbath and keep it holy. It's not a command to have a perfectly clean house. Not everybody is able to be home on Fridays before Shabbat begins. If you're not, please do not put that pressure on yourself. Don't think that your house has to be perfect just so that you can rest on Sabbath. It's all about being a good steward of the things that we have, and a good caregiver of your home and your children and your family. And if you can take that little bit of extra time and clean your home, and it allows you to rest better, then by all means you should do that. But if you can't, make your list, figure out what's a priority, and do those things. And then next week, do what you can do that week too. So I just wanted to put that out there, because for me, I have a tendency to be a perfectionist. I like my house to be just right so that when people come over after our Shabbat fellowship or, on Sundays when my house is a little bit extra messy from the dishes that have piled up from Saturday, the other things aren't quite so bad, but I've had to realize that I can't put an expectation on myself that the Father himself hasn't put on me. I'm in the process of switching over to all non-toxic cleaners, but you know what? I need to use up what I have here and not waste those things. So I'm going to finish those up, and then I'm switching all to my Azure Standard cleaning products, which I really do love. They're fragrance free and they do a great job. So I'm just using what I have for now and committing to not buying anything until I do that. The background is not loving that he is having to take a nap, but we all have our role to play in this house and some days his is to take a nap. So that's my little grandbaby in the background if you hear crying. Okay, and this is my best tip. When you're all done, to get your little tiny bathroom floor mopped, I don't break out any special equipment or anything. I just finish using that hand towel and I scrub the floor with my feet and call it a day. Like I said, we're getting it completed and not perfected. Just done is what we're aiming for. I used to joke that if you had clean baseboards, we probably weren't friends. But I'm actually one of those people now that gets my baseboards clean sometimes, but mainly just in my bathroom, so we can still be friends. Most of my house needs to be painted, it needs to be touched up, but we live here every single day, and it is what it is. And I just am of the notion that we should normalize normal houses. As you can see, I'm missing a drawer handle. My knobs and pulls and fixtures do not match, but it is what it is, and it's so earthly, and it doesn't matter in the long run, the grand scheme of things. We truly cannot take these things with us. We're good stewards, but we don't idolize and we don't glorify our homes to the point that it becomes an idol and a distraction. We take care of them, we use them as we need to use them, but ultimately I'm just not a fan of, striving for the next newest thing or gadget or style. There's so many people out there who say, this year the farmhouse is going out of style, or the shiplap is out of style, whatever it is. Who cares? If it's your style, it's not out of style. So that's just my little TED Talk and my soapbox for today. My bathroom is all done, and I can move on to my living room now. So I started cleaning with honest intentions of just coming through my living room, dusting, doing the typical things that I normally do every week. I'll vacuum, sweep, those things. But it quickly turned in a different direction. Here in just a moment, you'll see. It's always so funny because my cats know. They know when Shabbat's coming, and they can Shabbat like a champ. So this quilt, it's a really sweet story. The stars and the pieces that were quilted are from my mother-in-law and her mother, and then my mother put it together into a quilt, and then my grandmother hand quilted the quilt, and then my mom surprised me and gave it to me. So super special, it's beautiful, and I love it. Also, I'm just curious, are we the only family who has approximately 27 blankets for 5 people? Just curious, because we do. And I'm always folding them and rearranging them and putting them away, but you know what? We like to be cozy. back to our family and a little bit more about what we believe. I don't know that we would categorize ourselves into a denomination or a religion even. Both my husband and I grew up in the church, which we are extremely grateful for. We have a nice solid foundation on our Messiah. We were given such great memories in the church. But in 2016, I guess it was, my husband and I were sort of going through a time in our lives and our marriage where the Father was really just working on us. And little did we know that He was also going to work on us in our relationship with Him. Because it is a relationship, it's not religion. So that's where I have such a hard time even calling it a religion or a denomination. Little fact, did you know that there are over 30,000 denominations within the Christian church, with Baptist, Pentecostal, Methodist, all of those things? There are just so many branches of Christianity. So my husband and I, we were super involved in our Sunday church, and we were teaching a Sunday school class, and my husband was constantly studying the Word. It's a really long testimony, and I hope one day we get to share all of it. But after he was in a major car accident that literally left him in a wheelchair and he couldn't walk, he started reading the Bible for himself. And the Father really started opening our eyes to Scripture. And it just set us down a path that we weren't expecting. And it has been a process for us. It has been beautiful, it's been heart-aching, and it has been challenging, but it has been also extremely confirming that His Word is true, He is faithful, and He will not let us go. He stands by us as we test all things. And so that's kind of where it was. We were testing everything that the church had taught us, that we had learned in Sunday school, that we had ever even taught ourselves to other people. You know, all of the things that we say, we would start digging. Is that even in Scripture? Okay, that's not, or this is. And the Father really just was faithful, and He started to open our eyes to things that we had never seen before or had been told before. We went through a process of being a little shocked and grieved and wondered how in the world we were never told some of these things. Over the years, we have definitely realized that is just how the enemy works. The enemy is crafty and he's cunning, and he is going to infiltrate humans. He's going to infiltrate our structures and our systems, and he's going to have his way. And we have to be so on guard and aware of what His Word says so that we can rightly divide His truth. And that's where we are. We have just spent years since 2016 reading His Scriptures and seeking His face and asking the Father, Yahuwah, Yahweh, what He wants us to know, what He wants us to do, what pleases Him, and having a relationship with Him. And in order to have a relationship with Him, we have to do what He says that we should do, and we should walk in obedience and in trust and in faithfulness ourselves, and dying to our flesh, laying this life down, and walking like Messiah walked, and doing the things that He did, because that's what we're told to do. We're told to come out of her, my people. We're told to walk and be perfect, be holy as He is holy. So we have just taken that, and we have, built our lives on that foundation, on the solid rock of Messiah and His forgiveness, His grace, and His mercy. But our goal and our aim is not to abuse that grace and that mercy. And so, therefore, we believe that His commandments still apply. We believe that anything in Scripture that gives us wise advice on how to live, whether it's loving God or loving our neighbor, whichever command falls into either one of those categories, we try to live by that. And the thing is that we are still sinners. We are probably always going to be sinners. But I do believe, my husband and I both believe and agree, that His grace is sufficient, and His grace is training grace that teaches us and equips us to not sin. And so our desire is to also teach that to our kids, and to walk in obedience and love, and share that with other people, and be disciples of Yahushua. Yeah, so that's kind of where we are today. And this is the point when things started going in a different direction. My oldest son walked into the room and he was like, "Hey Mom, what do you think if we did this?" And I was like, "Let's do it. I want to. We just have to convince your father." So we decided that we were going to start rearranging furniture. Nothing like doing that in the afternoon on prep day before Shabbat. You know, this totally just set things off in a different direction, but it was fine, and it actually worked out so well. It was perfect, and with everyone's help, we were able to get everything done before dinner was finished. And you can just sort of watch and fast forward how me and my boys were working through this thought process of how could things be rearranged. Our house is not you know, tiny home, but it's also not huge, and our furniture, most of it has been passed down, and so we just make it work. And here we are trying to figure out how to make this couch that was from my aunt, how to make it work in our living room and not have a recliner right in the middle of our floor. So we decided that the TV was going to go on this wall here to the left where my mirror is, and we would make it to where everyone sits and can see each other instead of having a chair with the back and everything sort of shoved into the corner. It ended up working out perfectly, but as you can see, it takes us a while, and we may have gotten a little bit frustrated with each other trying to move this furniture around. The cat's like, what's going on? These are the times where I think to myself, what would I ever do without 2 grown boys and a muscular husband that is willing to do anything for me and do all the heavy duty lifting and stuff, because there's no way I could have done this on my own. Between moving the couch and adjusting the rug and hanging the TV, it's just all too much. So I'm here just to say I'm super grateful for all my boys, and this was a fun little project to do with them, and it definitely taught us how to work together better. We might all be a little bit of perfectionists, like I said earlier, so we all had our idea of how this was supposed to happen and how it could happen, but yeah, homeschool 101.
In the end, if it doesn't work out, it's just a little bit at the time, and
This is just absolutely lovely. I promise we're not like nasty, gross people who never clean. But when you move a piece of furniture that hasn't been moved since it was put in, you're going to find lots of dust bunnies and maybe a spare pet behind there. But we haven't moved it because, as you can see, behind this pallet wall that we put in when we first remodeled the house years ago, we had all of the wires running behind the wall so that you couldn't see them, which is why I wasn't sure if my husband would be game for moving the TV, but he was fine with it. We don't even use those cables anymore. We don't have any sort of TV other than access to the internet, so it ended up not being a big deal, and he was on board, and we were just excited to, you know, it's fun to move your furniture around. It feels like you've got a little something different going on. So somebody like me who loves to go to the thrift store, but I don't really love to decorate, moving things around is sort of my jam. I've been doing it since I was a little girl. I would sit down on the floor and just pull my dressers the best that I could and rearrange things. And I remember my mom would come in and she's like, what happened in here? How did you get this done? It would be me. While the boys did all the heavy work in the living room, I decided to get dinner started. The day truly just flew by way faster than I expected. I went ahead and got some pizza dough started to make pizzas for the evening so that it could rest and rise, and the boys could keep working in there until they needed me again to sort of decorate. My little helper came into the kitchen with me and we got started doing that. This is just a simple yeast dough for pizza on the back of the package of yeast from Aldi. So nothing special here, but I have found that it works really well. It's just yeast, oil, water, salt type situation. Let it rise for a little while and it makes super delicious pizzas. We prefer to make our own so that we can control the toppings. Because our family does eat biblically clean, we tried not to eat anything that has pork or shellfish or anything like that. So it's just easier, and it always tastes better to make things yourself. So we will eat this pizza for dinner tonight, and then we'll also eat it for lunch tomorrow, so that way I don't have to fix anything for lunch on Shabbat. And then we decided we were going to try to make something for breakfast. So we decided to make chocolate chip scones, which are definitely amazing and super tasty and probably not the least bit healthy. But we did use some fresh ground whole wheat flour. So there you go. We got that in there. Salt, sugar. Trick to delicious buttery scones is to use your cheese grater to grate your cold butter, and that way you don't have to run it through a processor or anything like that, and it distributes nicely through the flour and makes them super buttery and flaky, and it's a perfect tip for biscuits as well. While we are doing the scones, I preheated my oven to 500, and I'm going to also put my scones in there to preheat as the oven preheats, and that way they will be nice and hot for our pizzas. Scones and biscuits are one of those things that you don't want to manhandle. You just want your ingredients to come together, and I'm showing my daughter how to do that because she has a tendency to want to just squeeze and put all of her might into things. So trying to teach her to be gentle with her dough, and you just want it to come together to where it forms a ball, so that way your butter will still be distributed nicely, and you sort of want that flaky, you don't want a dense product in the end. So gently push it together, and as you can see here, we're learning, but they still turned out great.
Because there isn't an outlet there. Okay. But it's back in the shed.
doubled this recipe so that we would have a serving for tonight for dessert and then also for tomorrow's breakfast. So you pat each portion into a round, and then you'll use a knife or your scraper here to cut them into 8 equal pieces.
What CDs? Oh, no.
Once you get them cut into triangles, you'll just put them on a baking pan, either lined or unlined. Listen, I know some people are totally against the parchment paper, but at least mine's unbleached. And then you're going to top them with a little bit of milk. And this just helps them brown nicely on top and gives them extra fat and extra richness and extra goodness. I would love to know what is your favorite type of scone. We do blueberry as well. I've also done like a cheddar herb type scone. So yeah, let me know what your favorite type of scone is in the comments below. So on Saturdays, on the 7th day, we go to a fellowship meeting, and after we have worship and Bible study, we always eat a meal together, and it's so much fun. But each week I try to take something different, and this week we're taking baked ravioli, which is super simple. It's just frozen ravioli with marinara sauce and cheese on top. And I did add some nutritional yeast. It adds some extra nutrition and vitamins and cheesy flavor to the dish, so I figure why not? I add it in pretty much everything. Friends, always put water in your jar, shake it, and rinse it out and get the last bit of goodness out of there. Don't waste that stuff, it's too good. You know how on cooking shows they don't scrape the bowl and they leave stuff in the pan and their jars are never clean? That's not my kitchen. We like to scrape it clean, empty it out completely. I don't like to waste things. I don't know about y'all, but I know they probably edit those shows and all of that stuff, but still, I'm a fan of making sure you get every last drop if you can. Okay, and then all I did was just top this with some Italian seasoning from Azure Standard and a little bit of pizza seasoning as well. Those two blends are some of my favorites. We use them for just so many dishes, and the sauce will help. point, I'm getting the meat ready for our pizzas. My daughter was being a ham, but I'm adding some more of the Italian seasoning and the pizza seasoning and just getting that meat flavored nicely. What I typically do is make about 4 to 6 medium-sized pizzas. My husband gets his toppings, I'll get my toppings, which I love all kinds of everything. And then my kids will do beef and turkey pepperoni, and then we top it with fresh shredded mozzarella cheese. So you can see the dough has nicely risen. And I am ready to get this show on the road. It's been a long day, my body is tired, so we're just gonna zip through this process of making these pizzas.
I think so. You're cooking them already?
Although these pans are stone bakeware and they're non-stick, I still like to put just a little bit of brown rice flour, and that way it gives it just that little bit of extra protection from sticking to the pan. And there you have it, our lovely homemade pizzas. Our cats are ready for Sabbath, and so are we. So I look forward to hearing any questions you might have. You can post them down below about Sabbath or our routine for prep day, and we hope to see you back next time.
Shalom from our home to yours.